Let me take a moment to inform you that I now, finally, have a Patreon account. This is something I've been meaning to do for a while now. Over the past 2 years, I've dedicated a lot of time putting this podcast together. Your support would allow me to continue to create content and grow the channel. I'm asking for simply $1 a month for a subscription. Of course, you're welcome to give more if you're so generously inclined. Most importantly, a percentage of your contribution will be donated to the Norm Nathan Scholarship Fund at the Berklee College of Music. You will find the link in the description box. In the words of Bartles Jaymes, we thank you for your support. As we begin the month of Norm's birth, we have what is truly a near-perfect example of Norm's excellence. His personality, the callers, the show, and what it all meant to the listeners. When did this achievement in radio occur? December 4th and 5th, 1993. Because the reports with Bruce, Don't Call Me Brian, Connolly, are super entertaining, the title of this episode will be Trafficking in Laughter. Sid Whitaker was producing. We begin with the story in progress about Uncle Louie and Guinness Stout from a caller that sounds familiar, but I cannot place a name to the voice. Norm then adds his own story about someone named Ethel. Norm teases a guest who writes obituaries for a paper in the South, and we jump to AccuWeather with Paul Pastelok, introduced by newsman Ed Donahue. That's an inside joke between Ed and I. And now the fun begins, as Norm and Bruce Connolly begin their night of frivolity with traffic reports. We talk with 90-year-old Porter Harvey, who owns a newspaper, the Advertiser Gleam, in Guntersville, Alabama. It's a folksy kind of paper, strictly local news. He told stories about writing obituaries and adding a little more than the usual family, friends, and arrangement stuff. After that, we get another report with Bruce, sponsored by the Norm Nathan Orchestra and the Bruce Connolly Quintet. Now it's time for lots of callers. Now, I believe the caller's name was Dorothy. First time she's ever called the station. Not happy about Norm being bumped from Sunday nights for infomercials. Glenn in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, refers to a caller who talked about uniforms in a private school and being mocked by public school kids. He attempts to make some comparisons, and I challenge you to try to figure it out before Norm gives up. Helene from Belmont, singing and thinking of lyrics to songs whilst driving the car, is the topic. Norm mentions some of his faves, and they discuss many tunes and recite lines from them to each other. Charlie from Manassas, Virginia, in a riveting duet performance with Norm, singing a theme from a program that hadn't been on the air for 50 years. Charlie has high praise for the show. He's trying to start a fan club down in Manassas. Norm promises if he gets 2 people, he'll go down there and do his old-time radio show. We're back with Bruce with traffic. That fun switches to side B, where Bruce and Norm continue with the silly. Norm moves to the back rows of the teen canteen with 2 pretty girls that just came in and asks Bruce to project so they can hear him. A comment about Joe Stapleton causes Norm to burst out laughing. Dave from Uxbridge, but really from Whitensville. More high praise for the show. He's a bluegrass musician with the band Southern Rail. He's been loving the traffic reports and makes an awful Third Harbor Tunnel joke that I thoroughly enjoyed. This led Norm to reveal that he subbed for Joe Green in the Traffic Copter. Dave also objects to the stupid infomercials that had booted Norm off the air on Sunday nights. Jim, on a car phone, gives his own foggy and rainy traffic report. Glenn in Brighton, asking about the instrument called the theremin. Jim, calling in about Dave's call and his band Southern Rail. He's a fan and says Dave's a wicked good player. Jim was actually a former student. He informs us that Dave, when he was only 19 years old, scored a great achievement. Next is the most brief call with Robert from Everett. Then it's on to Pat, a nutty caller with nutty questions that was always fun. A woman named Timmy with information that refers to Pat's call. Plus, she mentioned the previous night's disaster of her broadcast. But tonight, as Norm so eloquently puts it, we're pooping out our silly program at a full 50,000 watts. And then she heaps some more wonderful praise on Norm. It's Norm and Bruce with an encore appearance and some amazing segues. Roland, recuperating from leg surgery. He was the instructor when Norm took a general home repair course. And we close with Dennis from Billerica. He has all sorts of info on the theremin. Lastly, a bunch of commercials are edited out, but not before we get the intro into the product or service, and that creates its own humor. The unabridged sponsors are as follows. Hoover Wet Dry Utility Vac with separate tanks for wet and dry messes. Visa and the adventures you can have at the Madonna Inn. Bonkers Funhouse Pizza. Marazine. Linda Kern from Hawaii gets sick and dizzy just thinking about traveling until Marazine saved her. Pilgrim Healthcare and their 9,000 doctors stampeding to the podium, which seems to be a safety hazard. And the Huntington Theater. Episode 115, Trafficking in Laughter, merges its way to your ears in 3, 2, and 1.
It's right. Yeah. I mean, it used to invalidate every sound through the house when he gets singing, say at Christmas gatherings. They had a meeting.
Fire alarms would be set off, too, I understand.
God. Smoke detectors.
Smoke detectors, yes.
They had a family meeting about 2 weeks before Christmas. And they said, what are we going to do about Uncle Louie? He ruins every party. Shot of killing the guy. What can we do? So Uncle Tom had returned from a trip to England and Ireland, and he discovered when he was in a pub one night and they had a sing-along, he had been drinking Guinness's Stout.
Yes.
And he found that it affected his voice. After a couple of Guinnesses, his voice box just wouldn't work right. He said, why don't we talk Uncle Willie instead of drinking whiskey, because he's quite a whiskey drinker. They have some Guinnesses. Maybe it'll work on him. So they tried it, and Uncle Willie was pretty good in the lower registers, but when he came to the finale, you're the idol of my heart, sweet Adeline, he really hit it high. His voice cracked, which drew tremendous waves of laughter from everybody. He never sang again. It cured him. It worked. But they had spiked it with a little Jamaica rum. I don't know, maybe that has. Guinness's Stout, I guess, does have effect on your vocal cords when you drink a lot of it.
Oh, son of a gun! This is you're making this sound like this is really a true story.
Oh yeah,
it really is.
It does affect your vocal cords.
Guinness's Stout does, yeah.
Guinness's Stout.
It makes your voice deeper or higher?
You can't reach the high registers.
Oh.
And Uncle Willie, he ended up working with the church choir, but he never sang. He used to play the piano, and there's a widow who taught him how to play the organ. He married her in the end. So things turned out good, The best part of it was he never sang again.
And now you know the rest of the story.
And that is the news from Lake Oh My Gosh.
Well, the women are all ugly and the kids are really stupid.
Well, the kids are all incorrigible.
Okay. Now, I remember. Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I thought you were going to throw me off the air after that horrible story.
No, well, it really did stink out loud there. That story was okay, but anyway, no, I remember being at a wedding once, and no matter what wedding you go to, there's always somebody who sings. If it's not your Uncle Willie, this was a woman named Ethel, who was a pasty-faced lady with a big nose, and she sang awful. She sang, "Come, come, I love you only," but that song from the Chocolate Soldier, I think, one of the operetta tunes.
Yeah.
And everybody stepped yelling at her. There was some guy, maybe it was your Uncle Willie, yelling at her, "Ethel, shut up for God's sakes!" And she had totally ignored him and kept on singing. And I wish I had a funny ending to this story, but I really don't. And now I'm going to have to get rid of it because I don't know what else to do with them.
All right, you can give me the hook.
Okay, keep talking. Let me knock you off there while you're talking.
I have another story about my uncle.
Oh, that made me feel just so good.
Nobody does it like you, the way that you do.
Well, he's back. He's been working outside all summer, but now he's back to working in the garage, in the basement. Maybe it's time to think about the new Hoover wet-dry utility vacuum, the one with separate tanks for wet messes and dry messes, because you know darn well, he makes them both.
Hoover, nobody does it like you.
Visa presents a cure for the winter cold. Halfway between L.A. and San Francisco, there's a hideaway where you can bathe under waterfalls or sleep in a place called heaven. It's the Madonna Inn, where every room comes with a different theme and every guest just comes for the fun. So whether it's sleeping in a Victorian bedroom or waking up in a prehistoric cave, bring someone special and your Visa card. Because at the Madonna Inn, they do make dreams come true, but they don't take American Express. Visa, it's everywhere you want to be.
Okay, this is Norm Nathan. I'm just so proud to say that. Anyway, we'll be around through the night here at WBZ. We have news coming along. I'll take some more calls later on. We have another interesting person I wanted you to meet. This is a fellow who runs if we do okay with him, we haven't done so well with the interviews we had scheduled, but he runs a newspaper down in the South. And a very unusual paper in the sense that, anyway, he writes the obituaries, and he has a very interesting technique for writing them. That doesn't sound like much of a promotional thing that'll keep you tuned, does it? But I think you'll get a kick out of this. I hope. If not, return the rest of your day, and I'll return your unused portion or something. Anyway, news time.
You're listening to the 50,000-watt clear channel voice of News Radio, WBZ Boston. News Radio 1030, your first choice. All day, every day.
Now the extended WBZ AccuWeather forecast. Here's meteorologist Paul Pastelik.
Well, Ed, it's going to be rainy overnight with areas of fog, and the rain will come down heavy at times toward daybreak. Temperatures will hold nearly steady through the night. Sunday will be stormy with windswept rain, heavy at times, and flooding in poor drainage areas. Temperatures will stay right in the 40s, and an east wind will blow at 20 to 35 miles per hour at times during the day. Then for Sunday night, windy with some clearing, the low temperature getting down to 38. For Monday, sunshine, winds will diminish a little bit, the high 50. Tuesday, colder with some sunshine, the high only 40 to 45. I'm WBZ AccuWeather meteorologist Paul Pastelik.
The temperature right now outside our WBZ studio is about 43 degrees. Going to check traffic now. I think that would be a good idea. And Bruce Connolly is reporting for the WBZ 24-hour traffic network. You all know Bruce Connolly. He's the brother of Brian Connolly.
Brother of Brian Connolly.
Yeah, who's his twin brother. A lot of people are not quite sure of that. They've never seen you both together, so they think you're kind of making it up.
No, not making it up. In fact, I was going to try to have him play the dumb birthday game one of these weeks, and I suggested it to him, and he said, "What time in the morning do I have to get up?"
As soon as he found it was 3 a.m., the guy chickened out. He's not like you, because you always think of twin brothers or twins, just generally having the same kind of attitude, being pretty much the same kind of character and all that. No. Obviously, you're the adventuresome one, and he's a dodo and a dullard.
You said it, not me.
Yeah. I often wondered, speaking of twins, whenever I see twin lobsters featured on a menu, do you wonder whether they are identical twins or are they fraternal twins, and would there be a difference in price? Obviously, you've never wondered that. I can tell by the way you're hesitating to respond.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Well, you really can't, because it's really a stupid comment. It's hard to respond to a stupid comment. I tell you what I'll do. I'll give you a straight lead-in so that you won't even have to respond to anything. I'll just say, here is Brian's brother, Bruce, with the WBC 24-hour traffic network. How is traffic now? Bruce, can you handle that?
Oh, boy, I don't know how to respond to that either.
My God, we're really in trouble.
All right, it is pretty quiet out there now on the roadways. This traffic update is brought to you by Bonkers. The rain has caused some slipping and sliding problems out there. However, traffic is moving well in and around the city, downtown, the Tobin Bridge, the lower deck of 93, the Sumner and Callahan tunnels, and the expressway, all just seeing light volume at this time. The outer highways look just as good on Route 128, 495, and the Mass Pike. And also no problems reported on 93 or 95 if you're on those roadways. Bruce Connolly, WBZ 24-hour traffic network.
Bonkers Funhouse Pizza, New England's largest indoor amusement park, is the #1 place to have your kid's birthday party. Peabody, call 535-8355. Grand opening in Framingham, call 872-6600.
If you suffer from motion sickness, listen to Linda Kern of Lahaina, Hawaii.
I get everything that moves sick. Car, air, boat, you name it. I get disoriented, like a lack of balance. I get nauseated, plus I get a sick head.
It's time you discovered doctor-recommended Marazine. Marazine tablets take the sickness out of travel, help prevent that queasy, nauseous feeling, help treat the dizziness and sickness motion can cause.
And it does the trick for me. I just do not get seasick or air sick or car sick. Couldn't do it without Marazine. It's part of my life when we travel. I can travel now and all the different methods without getting sick.
Marazine contains a medically proven ingredient no other leading motion sickness tablet has. And Marazine won't cause the marked drowsiness Dramamine may cause.
If you want to travel and feel normal, use Marazine. It's really enabled us to do the kind of traveling we've always wanted to do.
Marazine, M-A-R-E-Z-I-N-E. Marazine tablets take the sickness out of travel. Use only as directed. Available at all Brooks drugstores.
For news all day and talk all night, stay with WBZ Radio. Now, here's WBZ's Norm Nathan.
Norm Nathan, he's the talk of the town. Lifts you up when you're down. Norm Nathan on WBZ in Boston.
Okay, we're going to talk with an interesting newspaper man who, well, I'll tell you more about that in just a minute, but let's watch this message. The man's name is Porter Harvey. A very, very interesting man. Stay tuned for that.
Hi, it's me again. And we're still talking to all 9,000 independent doctors who make Pilgrim Healthcare the health plan of choice. Hi, docs. Hi. That's right, 9,000. More than any HMO in the area. And they're not just concentrated in any one place either. Allow me to demonstrate. Would all of the doctors who practice on the North Shore mind quickly joining me up here on the platform? Yeah, watch your step. Okay, all of you doctors who practice south of Boston, would you mind joining us also? Yeah, there you go. Great. Now, would the doctors who practice in the western suburbs of Boston please join us on the platform? Which still leaves all of you doctors who practice in Boston itself. Well, obviously, at Pilgrim, we don't take giving you enough doctors to choose from lightly. Ask your employer about Pilgrim, the health plan of choice.
Pilgrim has doctors located throughout the area, including Bedford, Woburn, and Franklin.
Okay, on the line with us is Porter Harvey, who has owns a newspaper down in Guntersville, Alabama, which is, as some journalist people describe, as kind of a throwback to the 40s, in a sense, or the 50s anyway, because of the way the paper's put together, particularly the obituary columns. And that's your job, is it, Porter Harvey?
Well, that's part of it.
Okay. You're down in Guntersville, Alabama, and you've owned, this is called the Advertiser Gleam. Is that right? Because the paper was originally the Gleam, and then you bought another one?
Yeah.
And then combined the two papers.
That's right.
Okay. You're 90 years old?
Yeah.
And you're still involved in journalism?
Still, I put part-time now.
Okay. You owned the papers, what, since the mid-40s?
Well, I started the paper in 42, and it's now family ownership.
Okay. The story I had, the Associated Press had an interesting story about you and the paper. It said you came to northeastern Alabama on a bus in 1941 and founded the Gleam, and then in 1944 you bought out the Guntersville Advertiser and then combined the papers, which now is called, what, the Advertiser Gleam. And the Associated Press writer apparently got a kick out of the way that you handled obituaries. Could you explain that to us, if you would, Mr. Harvey, please?
Well, years ago, we handled obituaries like all other papers. If a big shot died, we'd give him a full account of his life and what he died of and everything else. But if just an ordinary person died, we'd tell who his survivors were and what the funeral arrangement was going to be, and that's all we'd say. Well, we
we felt like that was a double standard. That wasn't right. So we started giving the full account of everybody. And we found that then everybody has something interesting about that you can say about them. And of course so we've been doing that ever since.
Okay, because there's a quote in the story that says they were talking about an obituary for a man named Homer Frenchie McSherry, who died at the age of 68, and you wrote, he pushed a little green peach up his nose when he was 2 years old. They put him to sleep to try to get it out, but couldn't. It stayed there until it popped out a long time later. Now, where do you get information like that? Is the town so small that you just automatically know all these things? Or do you
No. I call the family. Talk to somebody in the family. And I find that people are very nearly everybody's willing to tell you things like that. Of course, not like that. That was one case in a million. But tell you something about.
Okay, so
we had a paper just the other day that was unusual. We had three very interesting obituaries in the same paper, and I think that set a record for us.
Okay, now because you have a tremendous circulation considering the town that you're in. I'm told that the circulation is over 12,000. When the town that you're in, Guntersville, only has about 7,000 people.
Yes, right.
Okay, now, would you attribute this tremendous circulation to the fact that you do these kind of stories? Is the rest of the paper kind of folksy like like the obituaries are?
Yeah, we try to make people interested. Yeah, we don't get anything but local news. Something happens right around here.
Okay, so you don't pull off AP dispatches on world events or national events or anything. It's strictly local.
None of that.
Now, is this a broadsheet paper, full size paper?
No, it's yeah, that's right. It's broadsheet.
And how many you come out twice a week?
Yeah.
And how many pages do you usually run?
Oh, we run about from 14 to 18, something like that.
Okay, so it's a pretty good sized paper then. Are there that many businesses in that area that can support the paper?
Yeah, we got a lot of businesses, and they believe in advertising. They believe in advertising our paper.
Can you think of some other obituaries that you have written that have contained some kind of off the wall kind of interesting things like that the fellow who shoved the peach up his nose?
Nothing quite as unusual as that. Let me tell you about these three we had in one paper.
Okay.
George Roche was a prisoner of war in Germany, and while he was in POW camp, he lost 69 pounds. Okay, here's another one. Velma Keel voted for the first time in her life at the age of 83. Before that, she'd always felt like that was politics or something to leave to the men. But that year, she got interested in the governor's race and registered and voted. There's another one. Ulrich Nelson was going to be elected an elder at the Guntersville Presbyterian Church. The day before, on Saturday, he suddenly died. Didn't get health, just died. And so they went ahead and elected and held the election anyway, and elected him even though he was dead. It's unusual to have to see that interesting in one paper. But we try to find something interesting about everybody.
This story quotes a man named Jim Oakley, who's a journalism instructor at the University of Alabama. He says, your paper is a throwback to the old days of journalism with its letter from home style. The 1993 issue is virtually identical to one from the 1950s. He says some people would say we ought to hold it up and say this is the way you shouldn't do it, but he said he would never do that. He thought your paper was successful and it was the kind of paper that people like. I would think in a small community, that folksy kind of approach. Obviously, you've shown that that folksy kind of approach is what people like best of all, because they can't get that in big city papers.
That's right.
What is your background? You've been with this paper since you went down to Alabama back in the 40s. Had you been working for other newspapers before that?
Yeah, I'd worked on dailies before that. This is the first time I was ever with a weekly paper.
What dailies had you worked on, and where were you from?
I'm from Rome, Georgia. I worked on the paper there one summer. I worked on I flipped over the job with New York Post, and I was there 3 months before it discovered that there's a big paper seat. I did it before they discovered I didn't know what I was doing. And then I was on a paper in Nashville, Tennessee, a few months. And then I was on a paper in Dodge City, in Dodge City, Kansas, for 10 years.
Is that Dodge City, Kansas?
Yeah. You remember Gunsmoke?
I sure do.
Then I was on the Birmingham paper 4 years.
So you've been around quite a good deal.
Yeah.
So now the fact that you're still writing, I don't quite know what the question is that I want to ask. I think it's just amazing that you're still writing and you still enjoy newspaper work.
I sure do.
After, how many years now? We're talking about 60 years you've been at it, or more than that?
Something like that.
I think.
Not quite 55.
I think that is just fantastic. It's fun talking with you. There aren't many I don't know whether maybe there are a lot of newspapers like yours is someplace. I don't see them.
I don't see them either.
Most of them have become very, very slick, and I think the folksy kind of newspaper and the kind of oddball facts that you come up with about people that you're writing about, I think it's the kind of thing that's particularly fun to read. And I appreciate talking with you. I'm sorry, I have a feeling we got you out of bed at this time of the night.
All right. I appreciate you calling me.
I appreciate talking to you, too. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Good
Take
night.
care. Good night now. Okay. His name is Porter Harvey. And anyway, that was our chat with him. We'll take some calls. 254-1030. If you got anything to say to me, just give me a call and say it to me, okay, baby? 254-1030, area code 617, whatever you'd like. We were talking earlier about naming the third Boston Harbor Tunnel. If you got some name that you think we ought to, some person you think we ought to name it after, that'd be fun. Or just maybe something that's been on your mind that you just wanted to talk about, this would be a good time to do that.
Hi, this is Bill Marlowe. You know, if you're looking for a really great new dining experience, then I'd like you to visit
for our traffic network, and Bruce Connolly has that report. Go get it, Bruce.
All right, thank you, Norm. We'll check the downtown in this report. This traffic update is brought to you by, nobody, actually. Coming into the...
Hold on a minute while I check the sales department here. Is it too late to get somebody quickly in the next 30 seconds? I guess they're not... They don't care. You get salespeople today. They just don't care.
Silly me doesn't know what time it is.
No,
it's the top of the hour.
Yeah, we can make up some sponsor.
It's brought to you by Norm Nathan and his orchestra.
And by Norm Nathan Orchestra and the Bruce Connolly Quintet.
Yeah.
For your late evening dining, dancing. Why don't I just shut up and why don't you just do the report? We're acting so stupid. I can't believe that between this program and last night's program, which was a total disaster, I don't know. I think my days in broadcasting are kind of... Why don't I shut up? I won't even finish that sentence. Hey, Bruce, what's happening anyway?
Let's start this over. All right, Norm, we'll take a look at the downtown in this report. Coming into the city, looks good. Coming in from the east on the Mass Pike, no problems at this time along Storrow and Memorial Drives. Light volume on the Tobin Bridge and the lower and upper decks of 93. And the expressway looks good now between the merge and Braintree, getting up to the South Station Tunnel. And although traffic is moving pretty well downtown, it is raining out there and the roadways are wet, so be careful if you're out there. It is causing some slipping and sliding. Bruce Connolly, WBZ 24-hour traffic network.
Remember a long time ago when the day was done? There you were on the floor in front of the tree.
interesting. Particularly, you know, how to put the hair back on your bald scalp.
Well, my scalp isn't bald. That's my problem.
Oh, yeah. What about memory, though? You having a problem with the memory?
Oh, yeah, but I forget that.
You're doing stick with me, too, Dorothy. See how you are?
I've never called before.
This is the first time you've ever called?
I ever called a radio station, yeah.
You know how flattered I am that you would pick this program out of all others to make your initial call?
Well, I'm a real convert, and I just don't like you bounced off the air. I turn off the radio, and I don't think WBZ would like that.
I would hope not.
So you tell them.
Hey, BZ, you hear that? You hear what Dorothy said? You hear that, Westinghouse? Well, they don't like that at all. You're absolutely right.
Yep.
No, you're very nice. I really appreciate that, Dorothy. You're nice to say that.
Well, I enjoy your programs a lot, and I enjoy listening to you, especially when Helene is on.
Oh, yeah. She's building up quite a fan club of her own.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Yeah, a lot of people do mention her. That's really nice.
Yep.
Hey, I appreciate your thoughts, Dorothy. You're okay, and I hope the fact that this is your first call won't be your last. I hope you'll call again.
Well, thank you very much.
Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Okay. She's a nice lady. She's okay. We're going to go to Glenn, who's up in Portsmouth. I assume this is Portsmouth, New Hampshire?
Yes.
Nice to talk with you, Glenn.
I know him. In reference to the call before about wearing uniforms
yes.
in a private school and being mocked by other people.
Being mocked by other people,
Well, the person that talked said she was being mocked for wearing...
I guess so, by kids in public schools. Yeah, she goes to a parochial school.
What about President Reagan and President Bush, or one or the other, that said that Russian workers are better than American workers? Do you remember that statement? From what?
I don't recall him actually saying that. Maybe you may be right. I don't. But what has that got to do with the uniforms and private schools? Is there a connection that I'm missing here?
Again, if you didn't catch President Reagan's...
Well, no, we'll assume that they did say that, but what connection is there between that and the uniforms?
Well, if in Russia you're required to wear uniforms...
Oh, well, I don't think that's true. You are in some cases, but not always. I mean, everybody goes around wearing uniforms in Russia?
It's public work.
Well, we have people in public works wearing uniforms here, too, don't we?
But still, can President Reagan or Bush say that Russian workers are better than American workers?
Well, I don't believe that's true. No, I mean, if they did say that, I don't agree.
Well, they're in private uniforms.
Yeah.
Well, President Reagan and Bush are in private uniforms when they say that.
You know, Glenn, I'm gonna just kind of get rid of you quickly because I don't really know where you're going with that. I don't know what uniforms have to do with much of anything. I'll tell you the truth. But then again, I never prided myself on being particularly bright. I am a dense kind of person. But what makes me special is I'm just so darn lovable.
Bessie Dupree of St. Petersburg, Florida. When's the last time you tried Ovaltine?
Going to call until I heard that very kind lady.
You're going to pull that. I was all the way back to my dressing room when I heard the applause, and so I thought I'd come out for just one more. Curtain called. Thank you so much.
You needn't worry, Norm. I am not after your job.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. David Letterman said that. Jay Leno said that. Conan O'Brien said that. You know, and where are we now?
I don't know. Are we still in love?
Well, I hope so. I hope so. Because Sally Jesse Raphael never said that, though. I don't even know what that means, what I just said. I found that lately, I can't even figure out what I'm talking about most of the time.
Well, you were quite correct when you said that Come, Come, I Love You only was from the Chocolate Soldier. I'm going to be, sort of tiresomely pedantic now. The Chocolate Soldier, was based on Shaw's Arms and the Man. And the title of the song was My Hero. And it was rather ironic because the heroine, Raina, sang it to the picture of her fiancé, who was a military man, but not particularly heroic, in a bit of a stuffed shirt.
Okay. It reminds me of there was another song. Let me see. Let's see if I can think of the name of this. It's from How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. It comes out as a love song, but it really wasn't.
I Believe in You.
That's right. The guy was singing it to himself and looking in the mirror.
That's right.
I believe
Robert
in you.
Morse did it, singing to him his reflection in the mirror.
I know it, and yet when you hear the song, you swear, boy, there's a guy there's a love song there.
Yes.
And of course I suppose it is a love song.
The tang of gin and vermouth, that line in it.
How does that whole line go?
Golly, I can't remember.
Oh, don't give me that. Don't give me that. Yeah, because the lyric is really very, very nice. I was going over lyrics the other day. When I drive into work very often, I'm sitting there thinking of lyrics to songs. Is that esoteric? Is that a nice way to live or not?
And that's a beautiful way to live. As a matter of fact, I hope he's not listening, but I bought my son 2 books for Christmas because he has the showbiz in his blood. He's not in it professionally, but it's still in his blood. And one of them was a book on Frank Lesser, written by his daughter.
Oh.
By his first, he was married twice. He had a son and daughter by his first marriage, and his second marriage was to Jo Sullivan, the singer and actress, and he had 2 girls with her, one of whom, Emily, is doing rather well in show business herself.
Really? What does she do?
She acts. She performed with her mother. She had the lead in something else. And a small world. My younger son is in showbiz. He's a set designer, and he designed Peter Pan for the Muni Opera in St. Louis this summer.
Mm.
And she was playing Peter Pan.
Now, is she Emily Lesser? Or?
Mm-hmm. Emily Lesser.
No kidding.
Peter, my son, was talking to her and said his grandfather had worked with her father on Green Willow, and his sister-in-law had taught her at the Hewitt School in New York, which my daughter-in-law did while my older son was a medical student. Well, so, it all ties together. But
what is a favorite song of yours? When I was saying, I was thinking of lyrics. For example, there's one song, "Whenever skies look gray to me, and trouble begins to brew,
I concentrate on you."
Yeah, I mean, isn't that a fantastically wonderful thought? To be able to concentrate on something that no matter how bad things are getting, makes you feel better just the thought of somebody.
That's you, Norm. That's what I do.
There was another one. I don't know whether I mentioned this. The Rodgers and Hart song, "My Funny Valentine," which long has been a favorite of mine. But there's one line. Did I go through this with you?
No.
There's a Yiddish word that's called kvel. Do you know what that means, kvel?
Yes, I've heard it. It means to sort of take pride in something.
So, I mean, even more than that. It's you're just bursting. You have so much pride and so much love. There was a song, a line in the Rodgers and Hart song, "My Funny Valentine," that says, "You make me smile with my heart." Now that's kvel. That means kvel. Anyway.
On the other hand, Norm, it's not entirely flattering because one line in it goes, "Is your figure less than Greek? Is your mouth a little weak?"
Do you open it when you open it to speak? Are you wise?
Yes.
Okay, no, but I think that's still very, very tender, even though her figure is less than Greek, and her mouth may be a little weak when she opens it to speak and all that. It makes this person smile with his heart. So he still loves this person desperately, even though she has some flaws or she's not perfect. So I don't think that's insulting at all.
Well, no, but it's damning with faint praise.
Well, you can say that, Helene. Okay, you can say that. Oh, sure, easy for you to say. And it's it's not
a beautiful song. I love it. I love Rodgers and Hart. As a matter of fact, I prefer Hart to Hammerstein.
Oh, absolutely. His stuff was much hipper.
Yeah,
Hammerstein got kind of gooey, I thought.
a little too soppy.
Yeah.
And I thought that Hart was, some of his interior rhymes were so fantastic.
I'll take Manhattan the Blues and Staten Island too. It's lovely going through the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me what street compares with Mott Street in July. I can't imagine Oscar Hammerstein writing a lyric like that.
No, the pushcart's gently gliding by.
Pushcart's gently gliding by. That's right too. Then there's another song that I just love when you think of the lyrics. It's not the pale moon that excites me, that thrills and delights me. No, it's just the nearness of you. Kind of a simpler lyric than not too terribly fancy, but that's a nice thought, too.
It's a very nice thought.
I sit there and I sing these songs to myself in the car, and that you ought to be there because you would just be so thrilled.
I would. I'm thrilled just hearing about it. I'm so thrilled I may not be able to go to sleep tonight.
I hope not.
Norm, I had to call. By the way, I would like to mention a couple of your other callers. I admire Denise from Brookline, with whom I frequently agree.
Oh, she
calls about theater.
She's a very sharp lady.
Yes, I like her. And one who hasn't called in a very long time, and I hope she's around and will call again, and that's Marigold from Lincoln. An English lady.
Marigold. Marigold. I guess she hasn't called for a long time.
Yes, well, maybe now that if she's listening, if she hears her name, maybe she will.
And she can call, and I'll give some of my other favorite lyrics to her, too, and that'll keep her from calling in about 3 seconds.
No, but you can go on giving them to me all night. I love them, and I'll try to remember them. As a matter of fact, I'm saving some for the next music quiz. I'm going to hit you with a couple.
I accept the challenge, and I'll move along on them.
All right, Norm.
Pleasure to talk with you as always.
Good night.
Bye-bye, Helene. I think I say that every time Helene says, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. I got to get some other new kind of a line. Let me work on it, and I'll get right back to you.
Frank!
What is it, Shirley, oh love of my life?
It's that time of year again.
And what time is that, oh Peach Blossom?
Gift buying season.
Happy Pup, you'd better hurry up. It's 5-0 for him. Oh, we're sensational.
Oh, I'm telling you. Man, the Rays will jump now.
You know, I get it. It's incredible. That program has not been on the air in over 50 years.
That's right.
And you still remember the words.
Yeah, how about that?
Isn't it amazing how much we remember from way back?
I know, and there's a trivia thing about Olivia. I don't know whether.
Oh, this is you mean the secret code to the enemy out at sea?
Oh, well, no. This is even funnier than that, I thought.
Okay, let me just finish that for people who are wondering what I'm talking about. He was a young kid. He apparently he had not 15. Yeah, and
14.
14. I guess within the script, somebody was planting clues and secret information to, I think, Nazi subs or some ships out at sea, and they discovered that his program was a conduit to the enemy. It wasn't any fault of his. He did not know that. He was just being used. Anyway, now what is the thing that you have?
The thing that I remember, I was a pretty young guy at that time, yeah. And sitting every week listening to him, and all of a sudden one week they used to come on with about 14-year-old Olivia. And then all of a sudden one day they come on this one Sunday and said 14-year-old Olivia won't be on any longer. He was drafted.
Oh, really?
Poor 14-year-old. We were really desperate. 14-year-olds got drafted in those days.
No, they really didn't. Now, why did they say that?
I think apparently he was older than 14.
That's true, isn't that so? Obviously that's true.
They were just saying he was 14.
It's like, remember Ezra Stone as Henry Aldrich
and Jackie Kelk as Homer.
As Homer, that's right.
Yeah.
Now they were doing America's typical teenager kind of episode. They were both in their early 30s.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, as long as you had the right voice for it, nobody questioned your age. As long as you sounded like the character you were playing, it didn't matter.
Yeah, it's like Arnold Stang, his voice, yeah?
Oh, he had a great voice, yeah. Yeah, well, because did you know he was born in Chelsea?
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, Chelsea, Massachusetts. I'm sorry, you're down in Virginia, so that doesn't mean anything to you.
Nothing wrong with being born in Chelsea.
Well, no, Chelsea's a suburb of Boston. He had such a very heavy New York accent. It seems kind of funny that he was from Massachusetts. And that's my story. I have a lot of those kind of stories, Charlie, which I can tell you're really thrilled with.
I would give my right arm to come up and listen to you talk on old-time radio.
Oh, we have fun.
I'm going to do that.
We had fun. I talked with a retirement group, a club from GTE Sylvania the other day. We had about 250 people, I think, in the audience, and they were great. That worked out well. It is amazing though how much we remember of that period.
Oh yeah.
When we can't remember what we did yesterday.
Absolutely. And because of all of this good stuff, I've become a weekend insomniac.
Oh, what a nice person you are, Charlie. You're okay.
Oh, I tell you, I get more enjoyment out of this 2 nights a week than I do any other time during the week.
Oh,
I really do enjoy it.
Oh, I appreciate. Hey, Charlie, you're okay. You know.
Yeah, I'm trying to start a fan club in Manassas for you.
Okay, if you get more than 2 people, I'll come down and say hello.
Yeah, how about a picture or something? Can I get one?
Yeah, let me turn you over to Sid.
Okay.
Okay, Sid will take your name and address and stuff, and I'll be happy to do that, Charlie.
Thanks, Norm. Have a good holiday.
You too. Have a good holiday, you too. He sounds okay. That's my friend Charlie from Manassas, Virginia. A Norm Nathan fan club in Manassas, Virginia. Boy, wouldn't this station sit up and take notice of that? Wouldn't they be impressed?
Does your baby suffer?
Yes.
Sorry there. I have a question for you. I was thinking at the bottom of the hour how I began to introduce a sponsor, actually, when there was none. And by the way, this hour is this traffic update sponsored by A Christmas Carol. However, fortunately for us, this is an entertainment program, and we're able to joke our way out of mistakes like that.
We are too, because people expect humor and lightness during the night, and they expect that of us.
So fortunately for me, that was good. But my question for you is, how do you think Gary LaPierre would have gotten himself out of that?
He probably would have just fumfited, probably would have made a total fool of himself, and probably wouldn't have known what to say, and people would have found out that he is not the slick, smooth-talking newscaster that he pretends to be. He would never have gotten out of it as smoothly as we did.
So...
we've got a producer who does sound effects.
That's great.
Yeah, that's really swell. We'll save that. It's all one letter. I
have noticed that. I have noticed that. Actually,
yeah. He must have taken that speed reading course somewhere along the line. Anyway, hey, listen, that's his problem, right?
Yeah, that's right. We have our own.
We have our own because there should be some fog maybe now in some areas, rain, wet roads, and I imagine that's causing just so much havoc.
It certainly is.
That just to go out on the highway is probably risking life and limb. Am I overdoing that a little bit?
Well, maybe if you're listening, yes, never mind. I was just going to get into another joke, but I think we should go with the traffic now. That might be our best bet.
Okay, I'll sit back here and I'll be back here. Don't forget again, we want projection. Okay?
Okay, projection.
Yeah, because
right.
I'm in the teen canteen and I want to hear you back here, okay?
All right, then.
I'm sitting with 2 pretty kids who just came into the teen canteen, and they want to hear you, too.
Okay, great.
You may be able to score with them later on.
Hey.
Nice if you give a real nice traffic route. Can you hear me back there?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Am I projecting?
Huh?
Am I projecting?
Yeah, you can hear you back
All right,
here,
well, here we go. There is some slipping and sliding going on out there.
How do you think Joe Stapleton would respond the way you're responding?
Joe,
could he handle this, do you think?
Joe Stapleton? I think he'd do just well. Joe is a very funny man, even though, you wouldn't know it on the air. Off the air, he's a scream.
On the air, he's pretty much of a stodgy old guy, huh?
He's a scream.
Okay, anyway, just go right ahead, and I'm just changing position. I'm going to hear you over here now.
This is the longest traffic report I've ever done. All right.
I got nothing else going here. What the heck?
Yeah. Some slipping and sliding going on out there due to the rain, but fortunately no real problems on the major roadways. Traffic moves well on the Mass Pike 93 and 95. Only light volume now on Route 128 and 495. Downtown traffic a bit tied up near Kenmore Square and Faneuil Hall. As people begin to leave the clubs and bars in those areas. Otherwise, it looks good now on the Tobin Bridge, lower deck of 93 and the Expressway. And it's a smooth ride through the Sumner and Callahan tunnels. Bruce Connolly, WBZ 24-hour Traffic Network.
Don't miss A Christmas Carol at the Huntington Theater now through December 31st. Call 266-0800.
Hi, Norm.
How you doing?
Well, pretty good, although I'm technically not in Uxbridge. Actually, I'm in Whitensville.
Oh, Whitensville. Now, let me revise my little sheet here then.
Yeah, I guess Sid said he couldn't quite get that on the computer. So we substituted Uxbridge.
Is Uxbridge? They're fairly close to each other, are they not?
Yeah, they're adjoining towns.
Okay.
So that's close enough.
Now, why did you say Uxbridge?
Well, it was the only one I could think of.
Oh, I think you figured he didn't know how to spell Whitensville.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, close enough.
It's an interesting sounding name though, Uxbridge.
Yeah, well, I used to live on Uxbridge Road, and people had a lot of trouble with that one.
Yeah,
it's got all kinds of crazy mail with.
Sounds like a throat disease almost. I got Uxbridge.
Yeah, well, I should maybe check with my physician on that.
Okay. Anyway, you're out near Worcester, I guess. Are you in that area?
Right. Well, I'm south of Worcester.
Okay.
So, playing gigs is an awful lot of fun. I'm a musician, but sometimes listening to your show on the way home from a gig is the most fun I ever have.
What a nice thing to say, Dave.
Well, I'm having a great time tonight listening to your show.
Tell me now. We have talked before, have we not?
We've talked once before.
Okay, now, and you told me what you play and what the group is.
No, I haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay, tell me what instrument do you play?
Oh, actually, I play the 5-string banjo.
Oh, do you?
Yep, and I play in a bluegrass band from the eastern Massachusetts area.
Now, what's it called?
The band's called Southern Rail.
Southern Rail.
Yes.
And do you have lots of gigs?
Oh, yeah. We travel throughout the country, mostly in the summer. So we play at a lot of outdoor festivals. And then usually in the fall and the winter, we play at a lot of the local coffee house circuits.
Yeah. Do you have enough work to keep you occupied full-time as a musician?
Well, it's pretty much full-time in the summer. In the off-season, it kind of tails off to just playing on the weekends.
Yeah, that sounds like fun, though. What are some of the songs you play?
Well, we do a lot of traditional material, say from, great pioneer musicians like Flatt and Scruggs.
Oh, yeah.
And the Stanley Brothers. But we also do a fair amount of original material. And so it's probably not a lot of material that the average person would recognize.
Now, for example, name a couple of songs you do. I bet the titles are kind of funny.
Oh, let's see. The interesting titles. Actually, there's a tune that I wrote called Run, Possum, Run. That's kind of a ridiculous thing.
Yeah. That sounds. Now, what's the rest of the group composed of?
Well, we have, of course, I play banjo. We have a mandolin player, and an upright bass and an acoustic guitar. It's all acoustic music.
Sounds great.
And the four of us sing, and we do some a cappella type vocal thing, quartets. Will
Southern Rail be in the next week or two be playing someplace where a lot of people who are listening in now might be able to catch you?
Actually, I think we're going to be doing a promotional appearance at the Harvard Coop on today's Sunday, so it would be this coming Saturday.
Yeah.
Where we're going to be promoting our latest album release over at the Coop.
What time will you be there? What's the name of the album release? Let's really milk this thing.
Actually, I don't really even know what time it is. I suspect it's sometime in the middle of the afternoon.
And what is the name of the album?
It's called Carolina Lightning. It's a release on the Turquoise label, which probably thousands of people are going to say, I've heard of that, but actually not, because it's a fairly small independent label.
Well, that's lovely, though. I hope it works out well.
We get a lot of distribution around the country, and we get on some of the album charts that exist within the framework of bluegrass music.
That sounds great.
Yeah, we do fairly well. We're kind of getting a nice national reputation for ourselves, and we have a lot of fun.
Does somebody take up the banjo right off, or do you try the guitar and then?
Actually, I started on the guitar when I was really young, and ended up kind of progressing toward the banjo some years later.
It's kind of interesting. You said progressing toward the banjo.
Yeah, well, the guitar. I think for me, the banjo is kind of a path of least resistance for me. It's a little bit easier than playing the guitar.
Is it?
I mean, I love the guitar, and I've actually played guitar a lot longer, and I have more real schooling, so to speak, on the guitar. But the banjo, just for me, is I find it to be more of a creative outlet for myself.
And the guy who plays the mandolin, now there's an instrument you don't hear very often.
No, not outside of bluegrass. You don't really hear it anymore.
Yeah.
But in bluegrass, it's one of the primary instruments. In fact, it's the fellow who is credited as the father of bluegrass music, Bill Monroe, is a mandolin player.
Mm.
So it's really sort of one of the real primary instruments in the music.
It sounds like fun. I really envy musicians anyway. It's got to be fun to be out playing before a group and them all stomping their feet and clapping their hands
great.
and all that.
Well, it's entertainment. I mean, obviously, you're a pioneer of entertainment yourself.
Well, but playing a musical instrument, that's a whole different thing. That's really nice because I'm taking piano lessons again now for about the 90th time, and I used to play the violin when I was a kid, and to stand up in front of a group and really play and really know what you're doing, or to be part of a group, I think would be just absolutely thrilling.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. Sometimes the reality of it is that maybe sometimes you don't quite feel like you really know what you're doing, but that makes it exciting.
That's kind of funny you should say that. No, because I was thinking, a guy like Woody Allen probably has the best of all possible lives. He writes, he does movies, I mean, aside from whatever personal problems he's had in recent months, and also shows up at one of the clubs in New York on Monday nights and plays his clarinet. So he's a musician as well as a comic.
Oh,
that's really fun. That's going to be nice.
He's got a lot of talent.
He sure has, yeah. He has.
Hey, I was giving some thought to that third harbor tunnel there.
Yeah?
And I was thinking, they're probably going to have some kind of special deal for people going through that if they drive in a carpool. So maybe they should call it the carpool tunnel. But then again, I think if people were driving through there a lot, they'd probably start coming down with carpool tunnel syndrome.
I was kind of hoping you'd come up with something a little more dramatic than the carpool tunnel.
Oh, shucks.
Oh, yeah, because you're obviously, since you're a musician, you're obviously a creative person.
Well, maybe jokes are the wrong element for me. Maybe I should just stick to playing the banjo.
That's right. Take your banjo and just keep playing and just be quiet, Dave, for God's sake.
Well, that's what the people in the band usually tell me.
Okay. Hey, you're a pleasure to talk with. Where were you playing tonight?
Actually, we played at a coffee house down in Braintree. So I had a bit of a ride out in the rain, and I was checking out the great traffic reports, and they were actually accurate, believe it or not.
No. I listen to them a lot myself when I'm out during the daytime.
Yeah,
and they really are accurate. You know the amazing thing to me is, particularly during the daytime when there's a lot of and drive time, morning and afternoon, when there's a lot of traffic going in various directions. These guys can sum up the whole traffic picture in less than a minute.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
It really is, because, one time I was pinch hitting for Joe Green. I was up in the helicopter doing traffic for one whole week. And to be able to sum up things and really give a picture of what's happening in a short period of time is really dramatic, because I remember one time, I think I went, like 4 or 5 minutes. I felt I had to give details on every bit of traffic everywhere that there was. And finally, the news director at that time talked to me on the two-way up in the helicopter and said, Norm, we have other things going on during this news hour. And you know how you threw us off and you screwed up everything. He went on and on like that. But these guys do it very, very beautifully.
Oh, it's amazing. They know how those guys are professionals. I admire them a lot.
No, they really are. They really do.
And I really like to be able to just dial in and pick up a traffic report, really quickly like that. Because, I spend a fair amount of time driving from this area out in the Worcester area to into Waltham or places like that, and it's great to get a traffic report, and I can avoid 128 or avoid the Pike or whatever. Yeah, it works out great.
We should be taping this and using this as a promotional announcement.
Hey, there you go. Then maybe I'd be into the big bucks.
That's right. There are big bucks to be made in this high-paying glamour field business, you know.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I'm going to put in a pitch like that, like the lady did who called earlier about the info commercials there, because I switch off on those too. I'd rather have a live person. I'd rather have you on in that spot because I know you used to be on in that spot.
Yeah, I know it.
I miss you in that spot too.
I appreciate that very, very much. One day after the war, maybe we'll come back again into that little cafe in Antwerp, Belgium. Anyway, are you interested in the dumb birthday game, or you're not going to be up that late?
Oh, I'm probably going to be retired by then.
Okay, well, I'm glad to talk with you.
I'll have to take you up on that offer when I get home one night really late from a gig, and we'll do that because that would be fun.
Okay. Meantime, keep in touch and let me know where you're playing because I'd like very much to catch you.
Yeah, well, we'll keep you informed.
Okay.
We'll be playing a lot in the Boston area, so I'll give you a call back another time.
That'd be great.
All right, Norm.
Thanks, Dave.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye now. Okay, 254-1030, area code 617. And you know what we'll do in a minute or two? We'll take some more phone calls. What a great idea.
If you suffer from motion sickness, listen to Hazel Dew of Houston, Texas.
I'm in the car, and I just have some great information that I should pass along to you.
Lovely.
You realize that you could drive from the Marriott in Worcester all the way to Wellesley before you come to the phone.
I'm sorry, before you come to the phone?
Yeah, before you get to the phone.
Okay.
Isn't that great information?
Oh, that's wonderful information.
Now, you need a traffic report.
Yeah.
It's very, very wet out here. A lot of fog in the Westboro area. And it stopped in Framingham, and now it's picking up in Wellesley.
The fog, you mean?
The fog and the rain.
And the fog and the rain.
Yeah.
Oh, my! You got to be careful now because we don't want anything to happen to you.
Well, the people have to be careful too because there's a lot of, you know how there's black ice? Well, it's like black water puddles. You know, it gets pretty crazy out here.
Yeah, you can do it.
And I realized why it's raining.
Why is that?
Because the mayor of Quincy, Illinois, is coming to the Boston area.
I know it. And that whole thing he came for the Quincy parade is going to be postponed again, probably.
Again, and he was here last week. He went to Florida, and he's supposed to fly in tomorrow morning, and then I don't think he's going to make it.
No, I don't think he is either.
I don't think so. Now, listen, I was listening to that guy in the band. I don't know if you remember, I told you before, every musician listens to you on the way home, and we appreciate your company from the gigs, you know?
I appreciate you saying that.
All right, man, have a good one.
You too, Jim. Take care now.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Be careful. Okay, let's see. Let's go to Glenn in Brighton. Hi, Glenn.
Hi, Norm.
Hi.
It's a question I always wanted to ask you, and then I'll tell you why I wanted to ask you, and I'll ask you something. Ask you another one. You were talking a few weeks ago about an instrument called, was it the theremin?
Yes, the theremin, yeah. Did you see the obituary of the guy who invented it?
No.
Okay.
Was it a joke, or was it a true?
No, that's the truth. There was. I was talking about the theremin, which was a weird kind of instrument. And I just happened to mention it because I was talking about a religious program that we had on a station I worked at way, way, way back in the 40s and the early 50s. And how we used to have to carry that theremin up. And it was a weird thing because it was played, I don't know whether technically this is true, but it's sort of through the vibrations of your hands and your body because you didn't touch anything. Had a post coming out of this cabinet-like thing going up and one coming on the side. One was for volume and one was for pitch. And the closer you got, the louder it would get to one of the posts, this metal post, and the other would be the higher it would get, or lower, something like that. But that's how you sort of waved your hands back and forth without touching anything. And I mentioned I'd forgotten all about that instrument, and they used it on one of the Beach Boys songs. And before that, it was in the soundtrack of the movie Spellbound. It was a weird sound, kind of like very high-pitched. Now they have all kinds of technical things that they can get that same sound easier. But the man who invented that, strangely enough, after we'd start talking about it, died within days after that.
Oh.
And there was obituary in the local papers as well as a very long one in the New York Times.
Does it sound like somebody blowing through Coke bottles? Like a...
No. It's just a high. I can't. It's hard to describe it. Well,
I wonder if it sounds like putting dry ice in a metal barrel and walking away. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but if you take an empty trash can that's metal.
No. It's just a very high. Sustained note.
Well,
and
that's what this is. If you take a piece of dry ice and put it in metal, when it contracts, it'll actually squeal. It'll actually make a noise.
Well, I don't know whether people can identify with what you're saying there.
But anyway, there was another thing. I wanted to ask you if you've ever heard of the gamelan, which is those are glasses that you wet your finger and you rub it along the glass.
I've seen that being done.
You put water to tune it, different amounts of water in each glass.
Yeah, they
it's
used
a classical thing, but I'm not too familiar with it.
No, we used to have. In fact, there was an orchestra leader named Gloria and her magic glasses or something like that. Way back, I remember, and she would play the glasses that you're describing, run her fingers around them, and there would be a different pitch depending how much water was in the glass.
Yeah, it's called the gamelan.
Yeah.
I don't know how you spell it, but.
Yeah, no, this was an instrument, the theremin, you actually plugged in the wall, but if you hadn't seen it actually plugged in and knew that it was electric, you'd swear that it's something coming from the gods. You know, it's a very weird sound.
Like the house was haunted or something.
Maybe that.
All right, I was just curious on that.
Okay. Hey, anyway, I've got to get going because we got news coming up, Glenn. But I thank you very much for the call. Let's take a word for this word here, and then we'll do the news. And then we'll come back to take some more phone calls at 254-1030, area code 617. If you want to play the dumb birthday game, you're welcome to call Sid at that very same number.
James Rife of River.
And Bruce Connolly, who has information for you here at 133. Hey, Bruce.
All right, thank you, Norm. We've got a couple of accidents to report to you now. Eastbound on Storrow Drive, the first is by Kenmore Square. The other apparently involves 4 cars occupying most of the roadway by the Copley Square exit.
And I happened to hear a fellow talk to you from the bluegrass band Southern Rail.
Oh, yeah.
If it's the fellow I'm thinking of, did he tell you his name was David?
Yes.
Yes. Let me just digress one moment. First of all, I used to live in the town of Spencer, Massachusetts, and I've since moved down to Rhode Island. But you can only guess which station I keep my car radio tuned to all the time. WBZ.
I was afraid to guess. I thought you'd say, no, it's not that at all. It's,
No, I can't live without BZ. And I'll tell you, the station has changed somewhat since Dave Maynard isn't on full-time anymore.
Right.
I do try to listen to him when he's on part-time.
No, I think that's right. No, he's very talented. I'm sorry he's not on more hours.
And Larry Glick, I do miss him at night, too.
Yeah, I do, too. I used to listen to him a lot myself.
But anyway, getting back to David, I could tell by his voice who he was. In fact, he was my banjo instructor several years ago.
No kidding.
When I lived up in Massachusetts. And the man is a phenom on the banjo. Actually, any musical instrument that he does play.
Now, do you still play the banjo?
I do play occasionally, although my life is kind of complex and busy, so I don't practice the way I should.
Now, this hockey business now, was this just for fun?
Well, it's the Rhode Island National Guard hockey team.
Really?
We played a Navy team from the Groton Sub Base in Connecticut. They drove up to Warwick to play us this evening.
How did you do?
Well, we beat them 16-4.
16-4? Yeah. Is that a hockey score?
Well, it's the way it is sometimes.
You must be very, very good.
Well, I'm very, very old. I get a lot of young fellows to help me out, including my son.
When you say very, very old, how old are you talking about?
Well, I'm 51.
And you play much of a game?
I play. My son's in the Air National Guard with me, and he plays on our team, and a bunch of young fellows. It keeps the old timers, keeps them going.
Well, for example, how many minutes would you put in during a game?
Well, we all take our share. We have 3 lines tonight. We played almost 3 full 20-minute periods.
So despite the fact you're 51, you put a lot of, you got a lot going for you.
Well, it didn't until I pulled a groin muscle halfway through the game. So I had to take a rest and go back in later. But anyway, the reason I called was to talk about David.
Yes.
He is a banjo phenom. He's a young gentleman, I believe in his 20s. And he started playing the guitar, and then he graduated the banjo, I think, when he was in high school. And he even plays the mandolin and has tried the violin once or twice.
Yeah.
But I don't think he told you, but when he was 19 years old, he happened to win the world championships in a banjo contest.
Really?
At the age of 19.
No kidding.
Yeah, he is a phenomenon.
Isn't that something?
If you ever get a chance to go see him play for the band Southern Rail, do so, because it's quite entertaining.
I will. I just hope he keeps me in touch. So I know where he's playing.
He's a fantastic musician. If he's listening to me talk, I'll just say, Dave, it's Jim, your old student from years ago. I just want to say hello.
Oh, he must be thrilled to hear you say that.
I bet he is, if he's listening.
He may very well be, because I just talked to him that long ago.
That's right. I recognized his voice when I was driving home.
Oh, that's beautiful. Southern Rail. We'll have to catch them. It sounds like a good group. I'd like to hear them.
Yeah, he makes the whole band, I believe. Of course, I play the banjo, so I'm partial to the banjo. Actually, I play once or twice a year. But if I practice someday, I'd probably be halfway decent.
Practice them, for God's sakes, Jim. Practice. Hear me. This is your dad speaking. Practice.
You're right. I should.
No, I know that. I mentioned I was taking piano lessons myself now.
Oh, you were?
And playing a little bit of violin, and I don't practice. I mean, I really don't. But it's easy to tell somebody else to do that.
Oh, yeah. You must have a complex life, too, being a talk show host.
Oh, I'm so complex. You never know. I'm just on call with the State Department. I'm a troubleshooter for the U.S. government, and I'm making all of this up.
But you're having fun.
Yeah, and I'm also lying a lot. Hey, Jim, thanks a lot for the call.
Okay, Norm.
Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Does your baby suffer from red, irritated diaper rash?
Irritable, you know.
I want to talk to you. I want you to play the Bluebird of Happiness. Can I turn my radio down, sir?
Why don't you, while you're doing that, I'll turn you down also at the same time. That'll be good. Very nice. Let's go to Pat. That was, you know who that was.
Hello, Nom?
Yes, Pat.
Nom, yeah. Nom, I noticed this year what beautiful Christmas trees we've had this year, and that they've all well-balanced Christmas trees. But all of them have been sawed. Can a sawed Christmas tree be replanted?
Can you replant a Christmas tree?
Yes. If it's been sawed.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, if it's still got the roots on it, you can.
That's what I mean.
But normally they don't have the roots on it.
No, there's been no roots included on it. It would increase the value of the tree, too, also.
Yeah, but a lot of people who buy them have them, just put them up in their apartments and their houses. And by the time they take them down, they really don't want the roots on there. They just, did you want it? Would you buy a tree that had roots on it so you could plant it afterwards?
Well, then, if I didn't want it, leave that to me. It could be easily sawed off.
Well, that's...
But if they left a portion of the root on the tree, enough that it could be replanted.
Do you think that's what they ought to do? Do you think they ought to...
Oh, yes, I think...
Some Christmas tree with roots?
After putting all that attention, giving all that attention to it, and making such a beautiful tree, I hate to see it just go out to pieces in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, it'd be kind of a tough time to plant a tree, though, because we're talking after Christmas. Usually people leave their trees up until about New Year's, and it's kind of hard to plant a tree in January. It's not the kind of time of the year you would plant a tree.
Well, a Christmas tree could be easily replanted in the wintertime, couldn't it?
No, not in January. That's kind of a tough time of year. The earth is starting to get kind of hard, and it's not the tiny time of year you plant a tree. And
well,
also,
then I got jingle.
The best bet is to
One
get
of my neighbors over here planted a Christmas tree. Not a Christmas tree. He planted a tree.
In January?
Yes.
And did it survive?
Well, I don't think he expects it to until the spring.
No, what do you mean? He didn't expect it would survive until the spring?
He must think that it's going to survive, or else he wouldn't have planted it.
Well, he may not have known what he was doing.
This is the second. He planted one before, and then this is the second one now that he's planting.
And the first one survived through the winter and everything?
It must be about 3 or 4 feet higher than it was when he originally planted it.
I guess it survived. And he planted it in January?
Yeah, but his was not a Christmas tree, though.
Well, no, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you plant a tree in January, I would think the chances of it surviving would be kind of dim. I wouldn't think there would be much chance, but maybe. I never planted a tree in January. I don't know many people who ever have.
Well, I know that I heard expressed on the air that when buying a Christmas tree this year, to take and saw a little bit off the root of it, and so that it would take in water.
I never heard of that. To saw off a little bit of it so it'll take in water. Do you know many people who buy Christmas trees with the idea of then planting them after Christmas? And usually they're all dried up by that time. They're sitting in your house for a week or so, or more than that. Usually about 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Well, that's why they wanted a little bit sawed off of the root so that it would take in water.
I have a feeling you're not much of a gardener, Pat. Because what you're saying doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
That was expressed on television a couple of days ago.
What do people on television know? You know, they're a bunch. If they had any brains, they'd be on radio.
Yeah.
And so they don't know. No, I don't know, Pat. I really, I'm very skeptical about that kind of business. And I don't know who said that on television anyway. It must have been Natalie Jacobson or somebody like that, somebody silly.
I think that a Christmas tree would survive and would be very good in the wintertime.
You know, you're planting it in the cold ground, you know. I mean, you got to have a little bit of warmth. The water will freeze by the time. I don't know. Pat, listen, I appreciate the thought.
Wait a minute. Yes, I see it. I see it from your point of view now. Yes, I probably wouldn't. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the best time to plant a tree would be in the fall when the earth is still soft and warm, or in the spring.
But it's too bad after giving it all that attention to raise the tree to the height and getting it so perfect and everything, and then having it all go to pieces.
Well, I agree with you. The only way you get around that is if you happen to have a Christmas tree already growing in your property, and decorate that out in the lawn or wherever it may be growing. But people who have Christmas tree farms grow them especially to be sold in that manner. They don't grow them with the idea that they're going to be planted again after Christmas.
Well, a Christmas tree does survive all year round, doesn't it?
Well, if it's already planted, but if it's planted in January. Right, yes. Yeah, if it's planted at the right time of year and taken care of. Sure, most people plant Christmas trees when they're very, very small also, and watch them grow.
All right, well, thank you for your opinion.
Okay. I love the way you said that. Thank you for your opinion. Like you're full of coke, Nathan. Thank you for your opinion. It's obvious you don't have any idea what you're talking about. You're a stupid man. And thank you for your opinion. I'm certainly not going to pay any attention to your opinion because it sounds pretty stupid to me. I mean, how many people you know out there digging up a little hole and planting their tree in January? Maybe Pat would do that.
If you suffer from motion sickness, listen to Arlene Trigg of Coquille, Oregon.
Songs wrote a song to me called Timmy as a Girl. I'm calling about planting a tree in January.
Yes.
What you do is know that you're going to do that in advance. And in October, you dig the hole, you save the soil in a place so that it doesn't freeze, and you make sufficient preparations with the roots of the tree, and of course keep it moist during the time that you have it. Well, in the house we're talking about the Christmas tree in Washington, of course, and then you plant it in the hole and put the soil in, and that's no doubt what your caller's neighbor did.
So you can still plant a tree in January then?
Oh, sure. Especially in Washington, which isn't as cold as it is.
Well, I know, because he was calling from Boston.
Right, well...
Can you do it up here?
Sure. All you have to do is think about it in advance.
Okay. Well, now, why would you do that, though? If you're going to dig the hole in the fall, why should you not plant it then Is it worth all that trouble?
Well, I had the same idea that man had. This beautiful tree that's being prepared all year long, and then it's just sliced out of the ground, and it's gone. It's dead in January.
I understand, and I feel badly about that, too.
Then why can't there be just one Christmas tree forever? Choose one, plant it in the normal time. You plant it as late as October. You can plant it until the ground freezes, and then just trim it in time for Christmas, and take the trimmings down, and next year do the same thing.
Oh yeah, but you're talking about a tree that's permanently growing outside,
right?
Okay, because he's talking about the trees you buy and you put up in your living room.
But you can do the same thing.
Yeah, you mean after it's sitting in your living room for 3-4 weeks, you can still take it outside?
Well, sure. There's a way of preserving it so that you
keep it all balled and burlapped and all that kind of stuff.
Right. You keep it well watered. I mean, you simply keep it well watered. You try not to keep the house too warm so that it doesn't dry out. I mean, there are all kinds of things that you can do if you know anything at all about gardening.
Yeah, because I planted quite a few trees in my time. I just never thought about it with a Christmas tree.
Well,
shame on me. Shame on me.
Well, no, I mean, if you think far enough in advance, all you got to do is think Christmas in late September when you're doing, I don't know, do you plant bulbs? I bet you plant bulbs.
I have in the past, planted bulbs, and you can plant bulbs as long as you can work the soil.
That's right. See?
I don't think the soil is. I'm sure the ground is not frozen now, for that matter. It's still.
Right. Well, we certainly haven't had a cold winter. So
no, I mean it hasn't been cold enough for the ground itself to freeze any depth at all.
Right.
Okay, so right now you could plant a tree. I never thought of it because this is not usually...
I mean, you'd have to go outside tomorrow morning and take try your hand at digging a hole to see whether you could, but...
No, I'm sure you could dig a hole. I'm sure the ground isn't frozen. Come with me and we'll dig a hole together.
Listen, I've just moved up to the North Shore, as a matter of fact, in the last 6 months. And when I drive up Route 128 and past the Middleton sign, I think, gee, Norm could be in one of these cars. I might be passing him right at this minute, and then
I would probably look at you. You'd recognize me because I'd look into your car and I'd leer at you with a lusty look. I do that with women,
Anybody who looks, who can see me in my car when I'm whizzing past is doing very well indeed.
Do you have those dark windows?
No, I think they're a threat. I think they're a threat to safety, and I've been meaning to do something about it. Are you thinking of doing something about it?
No. I don't care. What I'm thinking about are people who are so vain that they feel like everybody's looking at them, therefore they want to hide, so they put these tinted glasses. The glass on usually they're limousines at that point, so nobody can look in.
Yeah,
I figured nobody's going to look in at me anyway. Who cares?
No, the reason I think they're a threat is that you can't see through their windows to see traffic. I drive by keeping my eye on traffic a mile ahead of me, and if a car like that is ahead of me, it blocks my view totally, and I get out of. I make very sure that I get out from behind it as quickly as possible. Don't you drive by keeping your eye on the road very far ahead?
Oh, sure, yeah.
No,
yeah.
Well, you can't do that with those things, and so I think they're a safety hazard.
You mean the tinted glass? You cannot see far ahead through them, through the glass?
Can you?
I never looked through them.
Oh, well, have you ever been behind one of those cars?
I don't recall.
Well,
I'm flunking every one of your tests. I am. I don't know about planting trees in January. I don't know about tinted glass. I don't know it. When I came on this program, even this very night, as recently as that, I thought I was a pretty hip, knowing kind of guy. Now, all my self-confidence is going right down the toilet.
Listen, after last night, I don't think I could do anything to undo what.
Oh, did you hear last night? Was that not a tragedy?
I heard last night as much as I could.
You know what I was going to do at one point? Things got so bad at one point, I was going to say, WBZ now leaves the air for a technical alteration. I was going to do that. I thought, that's just nothing much I can do. I can't even take a phone call because we don't seem to have anything to hook them up.
But you have all your power tonight, right?
Oh, it's right there. All my power.
I
It's
meant
right there,
WBC.
Oh, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. Yes, no, we're all at full 50,000 watts, and we're just pooping out our silly program everywhere, whether anybody wants it or not.
Well, you couldn't. I don't have tests for people, and you couldn't flunk anything in my books because your ace is high. So.
Oh God, Timmy, I want you so bad. But yesterday, the computer, everything was down. It was anybody who works in any kind of business, and one of the dreaded statements they can make is, "Oh, the computer is down," and everybody sits there with their hands folded, looking.
The computer's down.
Yeah, but when you're on the air, you have to keep something going.
Do you work with a computer? Do you have any reason for working with a computer?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
You like it?
Yes. Oh, yes. When it's working, it's fantastic.
No, I don't mean the computer at the radio station. I mean your own.
Oh, my own at home?
Yeah.
I have worked a little bit. I should learn more about computers. I don't know that much about them. I have worked a little bit.
What reason, though, unless you're writing a book, what reason would you have for...
Well, at one point...
Are you writing a book?
No, I'm not writing a book, no. But I thought answering mail even on a computer would be a little bit easier at home.
A little bit. It would be 5,000,000% easier.
Let me write that down. 5,000,000%. Wowie. No, I've used it like doing mailings and things, with the labels, addressing, setting up the mailing label and then just running them off on the printer and that kind of stuff. I do a little bit of that, I find computers are great. And here at the station, of course, once the computer goes, you might as well start talking to yourself.
Right.
It's everything. I'm starting to whimper. Have you noticed that?
No, I never think of you on the negative sign of any line. You are always on the positive.
You're okay, Tim. Even if you got a man's name, it's obvious. You're really a woman.
Listen, just keep on doing what you're doing. I have nights when I can't sleep, and fortunately, if they happen on weekends, you're there, and so that helps it all along. Thank you.
You're very nice, Timmy. I appreciate the call. You're very nice. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye. She's okay, you know that? She's just okay.
Can you really afford the cost of a home security system?
Doing to traffic anyway, Bruce.
Well, great segue.
Isn't that I said that so conversationally.
And speaking of the rain, how is it affecting traffic? That's great.
That's what it says right here. It says, and how is rain? Is it affecting traffic very much, Bruce? Said he ad-libbing that. Why don't I shut up? I got some kind of a disease. I can't stop talking. And in a stupid manner. If I was saying something intelligent, okay.
And speaking of traffic, if you look on your odometer and it says 50,000 miles, well, that's exactly how many watts of power we have here at the station.
Yeah. Don't you love those no lead-ins to the news? We call it, it's time for heavy metal news. Anyway, I think now it's a good time for traffic.
You're right.
Yeah, and the quicker you come on with it, the less stupid I'm going to sound and the less I'm going to make a total ass of myself. So please come in and shut me off.
Okay, we've got a couple of accidents out there on Storrow Drive right now. This traffic update is brought to you by Marty's Caterers. Eastbound on Storrow Drive, a couple of accidents to report. The first one is by Kenmore Square, and the other one involving 4 cars and taking up a lot of the roadway there by the Copley Square exit, also eastbound. Very tough getting by that area, so approach that area with caution. The rest of the downtown is in pretty good shape.
Pretty good, thank you. How are you doing?
Well, I'm on the road to recuperation here.
Recuperating from what?
Well, about 3 weeks ago, I had nothing better to do than go to the hospital and have a new main artery put in my left leg.
No kidding. You came through it okay?
Yeah, thanks to 3M Corporation. We're using that Minnesota mining product, using an artificial lens and an artificial vein.
Can you walk and everything okay now?
Well, I'm in process of therapy to learn how to walk all over again.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad. I hope things work out well for you.
Well, I've had to hang out my figure skates for a while.
I
leave my
see.
dance card blank, but we'll catch you up to that a little later on.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, see, now I've got all this time to recuperate, and you and I can go to dinner one of these noon times.
Well, that'll be nice. Well, let's get some dates, though, huh?
We got some good meals served up at that fine institution out there in Middleton. You know that place I'm talking about.
You're talking about some kind of a vocational thing?
That's the place.
What's the title of it now? You changed names on me.
North Shore Tech.
North Shore Tech, okay, in Middleton, Massachusetts. That's right. Okay. And people probably wondering, probably not wondering anything, but I can tell them anyway that you were my instructor in the general home repair course a few years back, and I just got a catalog, not a catalog, but a listing of schedules for the summer session, the spring session. Kind of funny to get one for the spring session in December, but it runs until the spring.
Yeah.
On various courses that they're having there, and I'm
going to sign up for one this time.
I don't know. See, I'm doing for the past 2 or 3 years, which is why I haven't gone back. I do this swell lecture on old time radio, and so I get kind of hung up on that, and it's kind of hard to lay aside a certain night each week. But I would like to. There's a lot of good things that are going on that I'd like to learn.
Yeah, we'd be glad to have you back.
Okay. Well, now, are you back? You're not back teaching yet.
No, I'll be out till the first of the year. I've got another 3 weeks of therapy.
You'll be out just for until January sometime. Well, that's not too far in advance.
No, it's already December the 5th.
As a matter of fact, let me check. It is December 5th right this moment. Sunday, December 5th is exactly right. You're okay. You know the dates and everything. You must be.
We're moving along to that monstrous date of the 20th of December also.
What happens the 20th of December?
Well, somebody has a birthday.
Oh, I thought it was your birthday.
No, it's your birthday.
No, I know it is my birthday, but I didn't think you could remember that.
Oh. Remember all the time. Well, it just so happens my fiance's birthday is the same day as yours.
Oh, really? I'm also December 20th.
Yeah.
Obviously a very perceptive person.
Oh, all the time.
I don't know what that means, except for people who go along with this astrology thing. Well, it's always nice to hear from you, Roland. And
we'll have to get together and set up a couple of luncheon dates.
Okay.
At the Log Bridge Inn, and we'll have some fine delicacy.
Okay, that sounds good. And your fiancé can get a friend to come along for me.
Okay.
Okay. Take care, Roland. Nice to talk with you. I hope you're feeling better very quickly.
All righty now.
Take care. Bye-bye. Yeah, Roland was my teacher, and this taught me how to install and work plumbing and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, let's go to Dennis and Bill Ricker before I get really obnoxious. Dennis, you're on WBZ. Hi.
Good morning, Norm. How are you?
Just fine.
Yeah, I was listening to your program now for the last couple of nights straight here, and a couple of the subject matters piqued my interest. The first one was the theremin you were talking about tonight.
Yeah, oh yes.
I got a chance to play around with one of those, not a professional model, but actually one that we built from a popular science kit back in the 60s.
Really? You built a theremin yourself?
Yeah, it was a friend of mine and myself. We got the kit parts together and we followed the diagrams. And like I said, it wasn't like the ones that you might see professionally played on a stage, but it at least made noise. And it was pretty good. It worked on the concept of body capacity. The best way I could probably explain it to the listeners would be if you went up to your television set and grabbed a hold of the antenna and the picture gets a little fuzzy, you're adding this capacitance yourself to the circuitry there, and it would operate on the principle of the closer you get to it, the higher the pitch and the higher the volume, the further away you walked away from it, the lower the pitch, lower the volume. And usually had two antennas like you had described, one for volume and one for the pitch. And the best I could describe the sound to was like a whistling sound, like an audio oscillator. The film in the movies that I was most familiar with that used a theremin in its theme music was the cult classic with Michael Rennie, The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh, really? They used a theremin in
Yeah, the theme music in that, the opening music was done on a theremin. If people ever get to their video store, they want to rent The Day the Earth Stood Still, they'll hear theremin music at the beginning. But it was quite the thing. We toyed around with it. We used to like to try to add little bits and pieces of wire to the antenna and just leave them dangling so the thing would screech out and make some noise every time somebody had walked by it. So we had a little bit of fun with it there back in school. But there's a popular story that goes around in keyboard circles that a young college student by the name of Robert A. Moog used to build theremins in his garage to help put himself through college. And he later went on to invent the Moog synthesizer keyboard instrument.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about him lately. Last I heard, he had collaborated with Ray Kurzweil right here in Waltham on the Kurzweil synthesizer. But after that, I haven't heard much about him. I assume he's retired now.
Did the episode live up to the hype? I love taking notes on this one. The way one call would lead to another with more information on whatever subject was brought up. Great listeners. I should add that I am intrigued about what happened the night before, and if that is here somewhere in the vault. Sounds like it was a great time. How about that call from Pat? He always had some very intriguing questions to confuse the heck out of us. And then Norm with one of the all-time great quotes. What do people on television know? If they had any brains, they'd be on radio. Don't forget to check out the link below to Patreon, where you can become a subscriber and help support the Vault of Silliness. We'll be back next week with another ditty from 1993. Closing the vault and leaving this world a little sillier than we found it. For Guinness Stout, Lake Omegosh, folksy newspapers, oddball facts, Marazine, Pilgrim Healthcare, Porter Harvey, the Advertiser Gleam in Guntersville, Alabama, Hoover Vacuums, the Madonna Inn, Visa, AccuWeather, Emily Lesser, the Bluebird of Happiness, Rogers and Hart, Olivio, Old Time Radio, the Norm Nathan Fan Club of Manassas, Virginia, the Teen Canteen, the Huntington Theater, the Southern Rail Band, banjos and mandolins, Turquoise Records, bluegrass music, the Harvard Coop, Leon Theremin and his Theremin, Robert Moog, Ray Kurzweil, the Rhode Island International Guard, replanting Christmas trees in January, Natalie Jacobson,